All right, guys, welcome in, welcome in. I appreciate you tuning in. We are going to get right into this. You ever heard that phrase, you don't know what you have until it's gone? Now, I'm going to say this. As bad as Gavin Newsom is for California, I mean, he's bad. I mean, you can say he's terrible for the economy. He doesn't care about the economy. He doesn't care about immigration or protecting ICE agents, federal officers. He just taxes his residents. He doesn't care about crime. He allows people just to steal and doesn't penalize them, doesn't hold anybody accountable. You can say all these things about Gavin Newsom, but the one thing about Gavin Newsom, I will say, is that he seems to compose himself very well compared to some of the unhinged Democrats. And I'm going to show you this clip for Katie Porter. Katie Porter is running for California governor. Now, I don't know what's going on in California. I don't know why they think that Katie Porter would be a good choice. I mean, California's a hellhole right now. So, I mean, who else are you going to have it? But Katie Porter right now is the front runner to be the California governor to replace Gavin Newsom. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen some of these viral clips of Katie Porter yelling at her staff, threatening walking out of interviews. She made a comment, and I just found this. She made a comment, and this is probably the most disgusting thing I've seen. So she has a kid, and she was talking about this story of how her 12-year-old girl was crying to her when Trump got elected. And it wasn't the typical, he scares me or whatever. Look at her response to her 12-year-old girl who supposedly, to me, I think the story is completely made up. She tied her daughter into this political story, whatever, completely making up the story about how her 12-year-old daughter was crying to her. But let's just say this is real and this actually happened. Look at her response to what she told this 12-year-old girl.
I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, did someone punch you? Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened? And she said, Mom, Trump won. Trump's going to win. And what if I get raped and I need to have an abortion? This is...
She's saying, because Donald Trump has, restricted, abortion and stuff like that and made it back to the States, that her 12-year-old was so afraid of being raped. That's why she was crying. I just got to replay this clip one more time because it is insane to me that a 12-year-old girl would ever think, I would understand, a 12-year-old girl being bullied by classmates or stuff like that. But this is what she said her 12-year-old girl is thinking about
during the election.
So on election night, I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, did someone punch you? Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened? And she said, Mom, Trump won. Trump's going to win. And what if I get raped and I need to have an abortion? This is from a 12-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter. And so it was really a reminder of how scary this time is for people and how important it is for Democrats to have strategies, both at the state level.
What 12-year-old girl in America is ever thinking about being the R word? What 12-year-old girl in America is thinking about that? And then what 12-year-old girl is thinking about if she does get raped, she's going to have an abortion? Katie Porter literally put her daughter into a political contest with Donald Trump to tie in the fact that Donald Trump is restricting women's rights, putting it back to the states, and uses her daughter, a 12-year-old daughter, as an example of why Trump is bad for the economy and why Trump is a bad president. This is what's wrong with the Democratic Party. They have no line. They are willing to use their children. They will use whatever analogy they will have in their back pocket to make it seem like Trump is just the worst person. Even using her 12-year-old daughter, crying to her supposedly, saying that I'm so scared because I'm going to get raped. And what if I need an abortion? That is insane. But this is the Democratic Party. This is the Democratic Party as we know it. And now Katie Porter, literally in this CBS interview, is upset that this investigative journalist is asking her follow-up questions.
Of Californians who voted for President Trump. We've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that.
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you.
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered.
I don't care.
Follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
How dare you do your job and ask me follow-up questions? What's wrong with you?
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of I'm me? I'm running for governor because I'm a leader.
What part of that don't you understand? I don't care that you ask follow-up questions to other people. How dare you ask me follow-up questions? I'm not going to answer that. You don't ask Democrats follow-up questions. I know you're an investigative journalist that has done this for years, but how rude of you.
So I am going to make.
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
And this is the problem that you have. As a politician, you have to answer questions from journalists. This is standard procedure. And by the way, CBS is very friendly to Democrats. Imagine if this was Fox News, that would go 10 times harder. This is a CBS interview. They're honestly your friends. CBS is a very left-leaning organization. Obviously, you can see the stuff that the scandal that they did with Trump, and they're editing Kamala Harris's interview, and they had to pay, what was it, like $30 million or something like that back to Trump. Paramount had to pay because, they were editing interviews in order to make sure the left-leaning candidate, Kamala Harris, had some type of edge over Donald Trump to make it not seem like she was giving all this word salad. So CBS is very left-leaning. And Katie Porter, who is going for the top position in California to replace Gavin Newsom, can't even answer follow-up questions. This journalist wasn't being rude. This journalist wasn't being disrespectful. She was literally saying, hey, look, Donald Trump has, 40% of the voters. What are you going to try to do to get some of these voters to vote for you? And then she said, I don't need them. And then she says, well, what do you mean you don't need them? And then this is when she gets mad asking a follow-up question, which, by the way, the journalist said, I did this for every other candidate. I asked follow-up questions. That is their job. But Katie Porter, this is the last clip. Imagine you having people that work for your staff. Okay, you're supposed to be your inner circle, the people that you trust with everything. If you're talking to your staff and yelling at them and disrespecting your staff, people that know you, people that are supposed to have your back, and you're screaming at them, telling them to get the F, whatever. How do you think she's handling people that she doesn't care for?
You ready for stat number 2?
I am.
All right. $632, which is how much you save in fuel and maintenance costs.
So just for context, I want you to watch her staffers in the back. Okay, her staffers in the back doing whatever, goes back into the shot a second time. And this is when Katie Porter just absolutely loses it on her staff.
You replace your traditional car with an EV, with an electric vehicle. So I lease a Chevy Bolt. It is the best car that I have ever owned. I just plug it into the garage, 3-hole prong plug, and I never have to go to the gas station.
That's awesome. And $632 is real money. And I know here at UCI, we have a National Fuel Center Research Center, and they're also doing work on how to make electric vehicles affordable, including for low and moderate income people, working moms, single moms like me, people who really could benefit from an extra $632 in their pocket. And it's also not just the individual savings, but it's also the total savings for our economy. So I'm on the oversight committee, you might know, and that is where we did a study recently this fall in September. And what it showed is if we don't electrify our transportation sector, that we're going to lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems. And the state could lose Get out of my fucking shot.
I wanted to tell you that that's actually incorrect. It's not that it's electric vehicles. It's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that.
This is her. This is a person that works for her. This is her staff, people, her inner circle. And she's telling them to get the F out of my shot. Who are you? You act like you're some type of, Leonardo DiCaprio or Matt Damon or some type of celebrity. And you're literally talking about electric vehicles, which, by the way, California is a disaster when it comes to that. I mean, just the taxes in California alone are just insane. So Katie Porter literally disrespecting her staff member on camera. She doesn't care that she's being filmed, and she's swearing at her staff member on camera. What do you think she does when the cameras are off? And this is something that the California voters have to look at, because if you see a CBS clip, she can't even answer any follow-up questions. She threatens to walk out. I know that, there were reports, when she was going through a divorce, she and her husband had to go through anger management classes. So if it's known that she has anger management, she's threatening reporters, saying that I'm going to walk out of here. I want to be friendly, but, you don't get to ask me, all these different follow-up questions. And then she's swearing at her staff members on camera. What are the voters in California going to say? Now, again, do I necessarily feel sorry for the voters for California? Because it seems like, again, I'm just going to say California, Chicago, New York, they're always going to be Democratic run cities and states. It's unfortunate, but the city of, Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, there are so many other people, Republicans, that love that city. They love the state, and they're never going to move. And it's unfair to them that people like Gavin Newsom or Katie Porter are leading in polls. Katie Porter is actually leading in polls right now. I would not be surprised if she becomes California's next governor. I mean, there's literally nobody that's contending with her. She has like 25% of the vote already. So as soon as Gavin Newsom endorses her, I mean, she'll have no contest. Now, I know there's some gubernatorial people that are calling for her to drop out of the race and stuff like that. She's not going to drop out of the race just because she swore at a staff member, because she threatened to walk out of a CBS interview. We know that. But the problem right now is that California is a hellhole. We know that. And Katie Porter right now literally running California scares me. I don't even live in California, and I'm terrified for her. I already know that Mamdani is going to win New York. We know that he's going to become the next mayor of New York, and that's terrifying for New York residents. I honestly think that he's going to have a mass exodus of rich people, because he, in his own words, has said that he's going to target rich white neighborhoods. Why does skin color matter? Why does skin color matter to some of these Democrats? But I have no idea. These are his words. He's going to target rich white neighborhoods. Katie Porter becoming the next governor of California, which you've seen in these clips, when she's threatening to walk out. She has anger management issues. She's swearing at her staff member on camera. Imagine what happens out when the cameras are off. I mean, good luck, California. Again, Gavin Newsom, say what you want. He's been a terrible governor. He has no control over these wildfires. He doesn't, respond quick enough. And he's terrible when it comes to, police. And, he doesn't back up his police. And, he just lets these immigrants all over the state just run wild. And it's insane what Gavin Newsom has done. But at least Gavin Newsom can compose himself a little bit better. So I don't know. We'll see. Katie Porter is in the lead. Katie Porter seems like she's going to be the next governor of California. And if she's going to be the next governor of California, you clearly can see you can't ask her any questions. You can't make her upset. You can't be in her way, or she's going to scream at you, especially if you're a staff member. So good luck any journalist trying to interview her, because if you say the wrong thing, if you ask her the wrong questions, she's going to walk out of that interview. So California is destroyed. New York is going to be destroyed when Mamdani wins. It's going to be no contest. Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York. And it's the direction of our major cities and states right now is not the direction that it should be going, but whatever. California always votes blue. It's never going to be a red state. New York is always going to vote blue. It's never going to be a red state. And Illinois too, and that's why Donald Trump is sending troops over to Chicago, because we got to get some stuff. We got to get control of all the crime that's happening in these cities. So Appreciate you tuning in, guys. We'll see what's going to happen in New York and California, and we'll see if Katie Porter becomes the next governor in California. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out of here.